I'm capable of sitting still. I'm not
Capable of sitting silent.
Isn't it
making
the same?
complete silence. No,
It depends on like how still you're talking.
Yeah.
Right? Like if it's mouth
apparently
movements
like
or eye.
moving my mouth even a
Oh,
little
it does.
bit.
I hear it too.
You couldn't hear it?
Okay, wait. Really fast. Everybody shut up. Can you hear that?
No.
Oh.
Did you see Philip shudder?
I am a little closer for what it's worth.
I also have this in my ear.
That's fair. That's fair.
You gotta get your ears clean.
Nah.
A neti pot, but for ears.
Dude, that shit looks so satisfying.
Yeah.
And then you get brain-eating amoebas in your head.
I have
Use
the neti
distilled
potting.
water, you stupid fucks. Stop using tap water.
I'm going to use pond water.
You get a whole fish in there.
Oh yeah, a real sardine comes out. Oh, gross. Ugh.
Was that recorded? Yes, that was
Yeah.
recorded. Excellent.
Oh, wait.
And I'm going to go right into it so it
Oh,
stays in the
Monster.
Welcome back to the 7-Star of the Right podcast. This is not a session. It is kind of. It's a metadimensional episode.
Yay.
Woohoo.
This is one of those times where we sit down and we talk about how the campaign's been going. We opened up our emails because there's 2 of them now because Kirsten owns the other one, to folks who send in questions that we'll answer. And, just generally talking about the state of things, how characters are doing, how we feel certain things are going, how things could be maybe improved. I don't know. I always like to try and I always like to go into these with like, how can I be better?
Oh, we're going to rip you apart. I will be surprised if our friendship survives this.
Oh my
Give
god.
me that criticism sandwich, please.
Compliment. sandwich.
Compliment sandwich. That's it. That's
Actually,
it.
no, it must be.
You
It's gotta
suck.
be.
This was okay.
Compliment, criticism,
Actually, no.
compliment.
Yeah, you know what? I think you were right the first time. It's got to be a criticism sandwich because the compliments are the bread. And you don't say I'm having a bread sandwich.
Oh. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
But yeah. The compliment sandwich, I think, is what it's called, though.
that is what it's called.
Anyway.
But they're wrong.
They are wrong.
Oh, wait, sorry. Hold up. It was a great attempt. They're terribly, terribly wrong. But I admire how brave they are.
It's a good criticism sandwich, Kirsten.
That's how it's done.
So we did get an email in.
One email.
One email.
Go.
I
Yay.
mean, we have like, I know we joke about having, the one listener. I think generally speaking, within the first week, we have somewhere between, 20 to 40 downloads.
Nice.
So there
Wow.
are dozens of you out there.
Yay.
Dozens.
Yay.
So before we jump in, I just want to say thank you to all of you who listen because I enjoy doing this. I enjoy sharing it. And I enjoy doing this with all you guys.
Jeff
Anyway,
enjoys watching the little numbers go up. He gets really excited
do.
every
I love
time we
number
name
go
an
up.
episode after a song. He's like, Kirsten, more listeners. Like, Jeff, they were looking for the song, babe.
one of the most downloaded episodes right now is A Chronicle of a Death Foretold, which is
They might have been looking for something else.
where Alex dies, but is also a short story that we read in book club recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a fun one. I liked it.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
But we did get an email in, so I want to jump in with those questions first, so we can make sure to get that one. And I do love how he starts off this. So William, this is from William C. Thank
Hi,
you, William C.
Thank you.
I am your second listener, and I've very much enjoyed your podcast over the last few years. Good storytelling and fun show tune facts.
Yes.
That's the brand.
Like, don't encourage us.
I don't think it can get worse.
Oh, I hold back so much.
Yeah, Philip's eyeing me skeptically, and he is right to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah. This could hard stop sci-fi anytime.
Musical episode.
So
No, we're bad at lyrics.
William has a couple of questions, one for each of us, and then also
Wow.
a general one.
Spoiled.
So this one is for the party as a whole.
Oh.
Do any of the characters want to avenge Alex's death, or have they made peace with letting him go? It's a tough one.
You want to go
It's
first?
tough.
I feel
Yeah.
Mike has got the most.
Marcus is about to be on a blood rage. Never knew this man, but I will die for him.
I think, yeah. I mean, Micah's for sure has a lot of complicated feelings about finding her sister again. But I think with all of the turmoil that's happened, if Sky didn't kind of show back up during this last arc, Micah's not necessarily expecting to be able to to track her down on Orisiame very soon. So I don't know. I think that it's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it was done in wartime to some extent.
Yeah.
Like it's tough. You killed people on that barge that she was also
We
on.
tried really hard not to. though,
You
to be
did.
fair.
You did.
It's
There
true.
were
Spent most of our effort
some people
was spent.
did die.
Yeah. The family complication is definitely, I think, what's fitting in there is like, obviously, yeah, Micah is still torn up about kind of what happened with Alex, but also doesn't necessarily want to actually murder her sister. So I think we're kind of leaving that for now. But I don't know, it's tough. And that was, I mean, definitely a formative moment for kind of the whole campaign. And like, I think our characters was Alex dying. So I think that still kind of looms large for a lot of us.
I feel like one of the things that I struggle with is we record these
Yes.
every 2 weeks, sometimes a little bit more often. David left the podcast like a year ago at this point.
Yep.
That episode was recorded about a year ago. And I know we did a lot of things because there were people who were going to take some time off. So we did a lot of like pre-recording and stuff like that. But it's only been for these characters like a week at most, maybe a little bit more since this person died. And I always sometimes need to remind myself, Claire's not okay about this.
Yeah.
This meta-dimensional episode is probably going to come out alongside like 119 or 120. So it's starting to get close to when you guys might be heading back to the Phoenix.
Yeah.
But there's definitely going to be a moment where Claire goes back and like his stuff's there. And I feel like that there needs to be something. I don't know. I just don't want Alex to kind of like fade into nothing because I feel like I want there to be a reason. But sometimes, in life, there isn't a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or I'll say, yeah, just last thing for Micah's part. I think that the only reasonable place she might expect, like, oh, if I wanted to like drag us all further around this planet to find my sister, would be like to go back to her parents' house. And I think that is not not happening.
Yeah, I think where Nona's coming from, there's a weird thing going on where like obviously there's like some anger right in the moment. I think with regards to Nona, that has a tendency to fade. And so all that's really left right now, even though it's only been so long, is this idea that Nona made a mistake. Like Nona's the one who brought this person back. She didn't have to be sleeping, but she was off, tinkering with something unimportant. She could have done things better, and that wouldn't have happened. And I think that's the only thing that really sits with her. So with regards to Skye at this point, it's going to be a question of whether Skye is actually still a threat to us or not.
Mhm.
Like if we meet up and there's actually danger of Skye killing another person, Nona will try to kill her. But if it's just like how many level ups are we going to get between here and there? Because like I'm starting to feel pretty cool.
Mhm.
We fought some nightmare horror monster creatures and didn't die. That was nice.
How do you think Micah would feel if Skye just you saw Skye out of the blue? Like what would Micah do?
How would she feel? A lot.
That's the appropriate answer.
Yeah, that would be a very cool scene, I think, if that were to happen. Yeah, not exactly no. Would probably fight. Whether it came down to trying to kill each other or not, I think is a different conversation, but not completely out of the question.
You got to be careful though, because sometimes you try and just hurt people and you get killed.
Sometimes you shoot people non-lethally in the arm and they start bleeding out.
Because they have 3 hit points total.
She's like a badass now, so hopefully that wouldn't be a problem. You never know.
Yeah. I'm actually interested to see like if anything does happen to all of the psychics that were created from the Skye beam.
It's a good question.
Now that the Skye beam is wonky
Yeah, was that
or
like
off or
a locus of thing for them that now they're cut off, or did they actually like forge their own like metadimensional connection that's just on its own now,
or maybe a third thing.
or something else?
I think from Marcus's point of view, like I obviously don't want to have this character come in and just completely be like, everyone forget about Alex. And it's a thing that I've been thinking about, especially with Claire seeing Alex as a type of father figure and then having Marcus immediately appear. Like how is he going to feel about that? Is he going to feel like inadequate, which he, kind of is at this point in time. So, it'd be interesting to see how he reacts to people mourning Alex, this person that was ostensibly a better father than he was, who just passed away. Like he's going to have like, oh, that's, feel bad for his daughter, but also like.
Yeah, I feel Claire always felt Alex was more of an older brother figure rather than like a father.
Okay. I think, yes. I was going to say, from what I recall, basically, we were joking about her being our psychic space child, but we're not parent figures.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Sometimes we wonder if we should be, and then we're like, wow, we're terrible at this. And then we hand her a machine gun and we go on our way.
The old kid in the gang of orphans.
That's exactly right. That is exactly
those are the
what
vibes
we
that I
are.
was getting from this group.
Yeah, I'm going to teach you how to fend for yourself.
That's fair.
Here's how you win in a rock fight.
Make sure you always have pocket seconds. And so William C. then goes on to have questions for all of us. So I'm just going to go down the list. First is for Nona. As an immortal entity, do you have any goals that are measurable on the scale of centuries? Does having another semi-immortal friend, Dorian Gray, make you feel more or less attached to her, him, them? I would say I think Dorian Gray is a them.
Oh, I was assuming gender fluid and just whatever they were presenting as the time have been the pronouns that I was using.
William, if I could just say the face that you elicited from Kirsten.
Face of delight.
Absolute glee.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to talk about this. So, yes, I think that is what, first of all, Dorian Gray is just kind of cool. I think this was unintentional from Jeff, but he managed to hit on kind of all of the tropes that Kirsten likes. We got some Batman in there. We've got some old grumpy immortal in there. There's cool jet skiing, fun mask. Like there's a lot of things in there. So Kirsten was just like, this character is really cool. And so I decided Nona was going to get like a little bit of like a hero crush and just be like, hey, is stuff good? Look, I got a cool knife too, sort of thing. So yes, in fact, I was talking about this with Jeff. I think one of Nona's goals for the very, very long distant future is to sort of create kind of this like immortals club and like everybody who's just not gonna die. Maybe we don't necessarily get along, but once a year we like get together for like New Year's or something.
You have
like
how you
doing?
meetings?
How you doing? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like straight up, just be like, hey, is everybody cool? Because like it turns out this is one of Kirsten's favorite sci-fi tropes. The like concept of eternity is very lonely.
Yeah.
And so if you can like make connections that'll span that amount of time.
There's a book that it's Nona the Ninth.
Yes.
Which
I have not read yet.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm so sorry.
It's in the Gideon the Ninth series, and it's like a necromantic civilization. And there is a group of people in there that have been like friends and know each other for, I don't even know the scale of time, like thousands, tens of thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And they describe as being able to communicate in just quick facial expressions. And I like the idea of, think about how well you know someone just for like having them in your life 10, 15, 20 years.
I was about to say, Jeff, you've got no idea what it's like to communicate with someone with just a series of quick facial expressions, do ya?
Context for the listeners, we cannot play social deduction games where Kirsten and Jeff are on the same team because they can read each other's facial expressions. And it's an unfair advantage.
I can't play against Kirsten because she immediately knows what team I'm on every single time.
Yeah.
I've stopped looking.
But there's a really cool idea of that. Yeah, I might not. And I think Doctor Who does a similar thing with like the Master and Doctor Who, where they're like, yeah, we're enemies, but also we're close friends because what else are we going to do? Like,
exactly that. And I think that's also one of her like big motivations to save Tara was like this idea of like, there's only going to be so many people in this club. And not only is Tara kind of, Tara's not a good person. Whether this is her fault or not is up for debate.
Mm-hmm.
But she's also assuming we don't kill her, going to live for a very, very long time. And so that's something that should be addressed one way or another. God damn it.
Sorry, it's got ice in it.
Carry on.
It's my iced chai latte
that you made yourself.
that I made myself. It's very good. Anyway.
Okay. So yeah, that's basically the thing. I think one of the things that would be really cool that I tossed out the idea of, I think when talking to Dorian Gray, was like, you could, assuming you had enough fuel or momentum, get on a spaceship and travel between systems the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to do the jump. And like you could see what was in the normal space between these places nobody has ever like been to, because you can't, because you would just go there and like die from old age, right? And so that's kind of like a fun idea. Well, I think Nona thinks it would be fun, and then it would get really boring really quick, and then she'd get to the other end and just like all of her projects would be completed, and also she took apart the microwave, and also like things would it'd just be a little bit wrong. Anyway,
Yeah.
those are my thoughts about immortality in space.
Definitely get to play with those a little bit, especially with the shibboleth and how they fit into all of that
Oh,
as
yeah.
possibly immortal beings themselves.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
are
know
they
if they're invited to
Yeah.
the club.
you guys
can't tell you.
aren't allowed in.
You
Sorry.
might not be allowed in. First of all, everyone will forget you. So there's that.
Who know? You know how the campaign goes. We can fix them.
we
Oh, no.
can fix them. I can fix them.
Could be fun.
Could be fun.
All right. Micah, does your quest for psychic freedom expand beyond your home planet? Is fostering revolution on other worlds something that you would seek with your massed stores of guns?
Amazing.
You're so right about that. Yeah, I think for Micah, like there has been such a focus on Orsiame, but now that, I mean, I think she's kind of like, I didn't think we would get this far, honestly. But it kind of has worked out, you know, pending. We'll see how the government unfolds. But yeah, I could definitely see that happening if we come to another place with, yeah, kind of similar dynamics. I know this was sort of the hook for me in a way that made me want to play Mike in the first place, was in the rule book for Stars Without Number. It kind of has this as kind of a part of the broad setting. It's like, oh, the Scream, and that psychics are kind of this oppressed class generally, not everywhere necessarily, but that's kind of something that ties a lot of things together because the Scream was bad and people were unhappy about it. So I absolutely think like if that's something that permeates into other systems, that, you know, Micah being a little bit aimless now, kind of like her major objectives sort of being completed, could definitely lash on to a different revolution. It's like, hey, stick with what you're good at.
I got to take a moment to make a little bit of fun of you here because we actually have a large overlap. Jeff,
Yeah,
Phillip,
yeah.
and myself
Yeah.
play this campaign, but we also play a campaign that I am running in which
I play Nona.
You do.
Pretty much.
Just an old crotchety version who's more into necromancy than robots, but it's the same vibe. Just like, how do I build my robot? I mean, my skeleton army. It's so good. And Philip's character in both of these is like a rise up fight against the corrupt government.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that in both of these we landed on your character arcs at the same time.
It's purely, I think, by accident.
Entirely by
it's like
accident.
that, sort of like in these past several months or whatever it's been. Yeah, it was like sort of focused on my character in their home turf, inciting a revolution against
Philip
the
sitting
government.
down and writing
But-
inspiring speeches for the masses. Okay.
Crap, which one is this? Space?
Control find
No,
Else?
fantasy.
No space.
Else,
What can I say?
it could be a Mad Libs. You could just replace all of the proper nouns and give the same rousing speech to both groups, and then the crossover would be complete. Anyway, it's a fun arc. It's just the timing coincidence is so funny.
It really worked out that way. You know, I think I conceived of those two characters right around the same time, so I was in a zone like 4 years ago.
Anti-fascist zone.
Yeah.
Huh. Weird that. Anyway.
Moving right along. I love this question.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, William. Marcus, How you doing, buddy?
Oh boy.
It feels like bad.
Yes. Is that the whole question?
That's the whole question.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely, when playing Marcus, I liked the idea of having him be like a normal or a guy, as opposed to our very overpowered psychic and cyborg teammates. And I was wondering if I was maybe going a little too hard on this is all very overwhelming for him. But then I think about it a little bit more and I'm like, no, this would be very strange for a man who kind of, we haven't gotten into his backstory that much, but like was mostly doing mercenary work. So like maybe like John Wick type stuff. So he thought he was really cool. And now he's in this situation with like gods, and I don't know if they're gods, but like spiritual
one of them has
beings.
given himself the title of God of Gods.
Yeah.
And I don't care for that much.
Yeah, and he like probably hasn't really seen that many psychics use their power. Like he knows that they exist and he's seen some psychic stuff, but like it's not like he's been around psychics a ton. So
Marcus has been a run-of-the-mill soldier. He's dealt with death and battle, but not necessarily tech level 5 nonsense.
Exactly. And
things like the time button.
Oh no, we're gonna talk about
We'll
that.
get to that.
I literally have a list of notes of things that Marcus is just confused about because he comes in and there's this bunch of like 20-year-olds or seemingly 20-year-olds and he's like, oh my God, these are children. And then they're like, oh, the space demon? Yeah, we're fine with that.
The time knife. We've all seen
the time knife, like and the little moment where he got like the psychic touched him and he got, cancer. This is all very disturbing. And so I'm trying to focus it so it doesn't just seem like he's freaking out all the time. But I feel like with the events of the past few episodes, it has been warranted.
I appreciate as a DM, I must say, with there was obviously a moment where I was trying to make something so kind of like reality shattering. And we have on one side of the table Nona, who doesn't really understand what normal is.
Yes.
And then Micah, who was having a lot of feelings at the time. And so like that was like not even top 3 for her.
Yes.
And so to have Marcus be like, guys, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Really helped ground us, I feel.
I'm glad.
It was good.
I'm glad. Yeah.
That was one of the things. I was like, oh, Jeff's trying to set up a thing here. It's really cool, but also, have you seen snails? How they move? They got no feet.
I am wondering like how to keep, because I don't want him to just forget everything that just happened, because it was huge. Like feeling he's never really felt metadimensional energy before, and feeling like as much of it as humanly possible, it seems, with the Eldritch Sigh, you called it, right?
Yeah.
Like that is a really big feeling, and I'm just going to think about how he's going to carry that forward.
I think it's worthwhile because it is absolutely, this is something I don't think any one of your characters would have experienced before. And so being changed in some way feels appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for checking in on him, though. He's doing better now.
We'll get you a coffee, apparently. Literally just threw that out the airlock. Now I can go back.
God damn it.
Whatever.
Swing back around
He's
and
an old
reach out the
man.
window.
And this last question is for me, Starmaster. Do you intend to have ship combat in the future?
Yes!
We were talking
William!
about that not too long ago.
We
Yes.
were. I think we've done like ship combat once
Once or twice.
Something
or
like that.
twice.
I don't actually remember. It was that far back.
I do want to. The thing that I think of space, and it is so big. It feels like 2 grains of sand moving through space have like just as likely of a chance of like running into each other. And so it would need to be someone actively looking for you or looking for something from people in that area. So like a pirate or something like that.
I was just about to say, Jeff, proposal, space pirates.
Yeah. And so
Space
like
pirates?
there's definitely some ideas that are going around. I think right now what I've been using space travel for is those moments in between everything happening. So rather than, immediately jumping into the next thing, because you've got,
You like
waylaid
trapping us
by
on a ship in
pirates.
the middle of space and forcing us to talk about our feelings.
Yeah,
I got you.
it's the campfire episode, you know, to some
I
extent.
love a campfire.
I think it's worthwhile to sometimes between, you know, we've been going through the Dravorn Palace for a while now, and so definitely these next few episodes, I was intending to be lower anxiety at the very least, to try and understand like what has happened, where are we, what do we want to do next, because there wasn't really a moment to actually like breathe out. And so I want to give you guys those opportunities. And so I do want to do it. I do want to do space combat, ship combat in particular. I know you guys also have like a freight or like a frigate. So it's more about carrying stuff than it is
Yeah.
about fighting. And so you'd be outclassed by a fair number of ships, but maybe that'd be interesting. It's an idea that I've been playing with. I feel like I wanted to tie into an arc in some way, not just be like a one-off encounter.
Here's a related question for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a tendency to get a little bit attached to certain things. I am attached to the Phoenix. I don't necessarily just want to trade that in for a different
A
ship that
bigger
would be
ship.
better at fighting. Would you allow us to spend some of our mod things to mod the Phoenix so it could be more of a fighter, badass kind of situation without necessarily changing the ship?
We could talk about homebrewing some stuff. Like there's
Mhm.
definitely, there are ways to build the ship. There are like hard points that you can switch out with other things. Like
Sure.
there's a whole, like how much energy you have, and, you know, maybe being able to upgrade that energy or find, you know, tech level 5 stuff that kind of allows you to upgrade. I think the Phoenix kind of stands for something now. It's a
Yeah.
little bit like the Going Merry in One Piece.
Mhm.
Like they don't want to move to a bigger ship. What are you shaking your head at? Oh, you don't One Piece.
But
no one
no,
here.
Peter and I were sharing a moment of we don't know One Piece.
That's fair.
And that weeb shit, get out of here.
But no,
It's
it's
musical
great.
theater only.
It's great. Everybody needs to watch the live action immediately. It is so cute.
The ship it almost becomes like a character in its own right.
Mhm.
And I feel like might be the case here. It's not just a tool. It is kind of like, it is your group. Like that is the thing. It is like Serenity to
Yeah.
the Firefly crew.
Mhm.
You can't really see them on a different ship.
That's kind of what I was thinking. And so if we want to get into space combat, which I would love to, being, you know,
You could
pilot.
you could basically control the entire ship all at
I
once.
mean, I let everybody else can pick their favorite spot, and then I will
one
drive
gunner.
the rest. Yeah.
You get everything else. You're like, have fun, Marcus.
We'll get you the good gun. We'll label it Marcus's gun. It shoots.
Mabel Maker.
Yeah. No, we can talk about it, but that is something that I'm definitely interested to. And especially with like, you know, we've got a couple of mechanics on the ship. Micah's veering a little bit more toward this kind of tinkering stuff. Could be fun.
Could be fun. Also, we could like go to less inhabited places, and maybe there's just more pirates there.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. So the answer is I would like to. I would just need to find a good. I want it to tie in some way. I don't want it to necessarily just be a one-off encounter. I feel like we take a lot of times to go through arcs already. And not that like, you know, one-off encounters are a bad thing or can't provide some level of character development within them. I would want to try and get something out of it, not just like and now here's a fight in space because reasons. So those are all the questions that William had. Thank you so much,
Thank
William,
you.
for sending that stuff in.
Thank you.
I got some questions. I know Kirsten has some questions. I don't know if you guys also prepared questions,
I did not.
Philip or
Yeah.
Peter.
Oh,
Yeah. All right.
I got one.
Okay. I will start then, and then we can kind of like
Sounds great.
bang around. I don't like how I said that. Popcorn around.
Oh,
I don't know. It's just
boy.
Bounce around. Jeff.
Bounce
You're
around.
looking to say bounce around.
bounce around.
You're welcome.
We can all bounce around. That bang around is going to stay in, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
What was a moment from this last arc that stuck with you? Everyone around the table.
I can go first. I think mine was also because Marcus went so hard on it, but Vaughn blowing up. I I forgot.
Zuri.
Thank you. I was
Well, you don't
it's-
have to think
it's
about
not
Zuri
ISIS.
anymore. Zuri's gone, baby.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think that really, especially because Marcus, like, you know, I was trying to engage with you as Vaughn, trying
Yeah.
to be like, get your shit together, get your team together. What the fuck are you doing? And then to have him do that, it's like, oh, respect. Like that was a really like cool and sad moment.
You know, Jeff, I like to think that there might be a little bit of Zuri with all of us.
Oh no! Oh, Kirsten!
What a cursed thing.
One of the things I loved about that happening was everyone around the table. Like, I feel like Marcus and Nona had a pretty low opinion of Vaughn, and
Yes.
Micah had a very high opinion. And as soon as that happened, it flip flopped.
Yes,
A little bit. I think with Nona, she's like, I'm not sure why we were doing it this way, but thank you for not letting us all die.
Fair enough.
So like it went up a little bit.
All right.
Marcus
not-
flipped.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
everyone had the little Sims indicator over their head. Mike is like,
Yeah.
minus. Marcus is plus. Nona's 1+.
Micah will remember that.
For me, it was a very unique moment. I thought the whole fight with Phoenix in the library
Mhm.
and just kind of everybody not being in their ideal spot for fighting. And it was really cool and I felt really cool. But the entire time I'm also sitting there going like, Nona's going to die. Nona's going to fucking die. I can't remember. I think I missed like 3 times trying to hit this stupid dude with the
Yep.
stupid stick and just like a whole thing.
Mhm.
And so like at the end, like he exploded and I'm like, ah, but inside I was like, ah. It was one of those big situations, and we had a little bit of a team afterwards. I'm like, can I not be frontline anymore?
Let's
Somebody-
stop this.
Somebody talk me down because I'm heading to some dark places.
He exploded.
I did.
Oh, yeah. We definitely had some, carry some Phoenix with us all in our hearts.
That too.
And other places.
Everyone needs to take a shower after that past day.
I think, I mean, for Mike, obviously, like this whole thing is all very charged. But for me, I think the thing where we engaged with the folks in security was like a pretty interesting kind of personalizing moment where we found out about like these folks who weren't all just blanket evil. It's like, oh, you've got some personal history. We kind of made a connection there, and that felt cool.
Not a monolith,
Exactly,
There
yeah.
were people in there just doing their job. Some
Mhm.
people with kids who were psychics that may have died. Some people like Enzo who are just like, I'm doing it for the money,
Kind of a
baby.
piece of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, the kid who was a psychic in that whole story definitely kind of struck a chord.
What stuck out the most to me, and this is partially because of all the prep that I do, I loved Nona being like, time button.
Yeah.
It was like, okay. So I gave you guys multiple chances. I wanted to let you know he is not in a good space right now.
Uh-huh.
He is actively dying, and I think you guys failed your Hulu checks, and then a little bit too much time passed when you applied the Lazarus patch. And I'm like, I want to make choices mean something. I don't want to just And so, surprise, surprise, I may have had a backup plan, and the backup plan was sitting in the room with you, and I had fully prepared. Okay,
Spoilers.
well, so
We can talk about spoilers now.
we've established how the Traveler's powers works, and it would not be a surprise, I think, to folks in this room that a nephew dying and it passes in some way to perhaps an uncle.
Yeah.
And so I was preparing a lot of things there, like the conversation, because Micah had a falling out with this person, and now it's going to have to be like, can you go and sacrifice yourself? And so I was doing some preparation there, and then we were talking at the beginning of the episode, and your eyes light up, and you're like, can we do this? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, it's a similar moment to me where I'm trying to kill an NPC, and you guys are like, that's not happening. And I think there's something really cool about that. I think because something I have to be more careful about as a DM is crafting giving a situation and building out a world rather than trying to craft a story, because the story comes when we all come together, right? And so there's definitely some moments where I'm like, all right, and this is going to happen. And when you guys say, no, that's not going to happen, I find that when that happens is some of the moments I like the most,
Yeah.
because there's something I don't know, there's something a little magic that happens there. And so having Davos, I wouldn't necessarily say redeem himself, because, you know, he was a little shit.
He was.
But there was definitely that story of like the bad guy realizes in the final hour, is it like a little Darth Vader kind of situation?
Yeah.
Where, oh yeah, I fucked up. I need to atone for this. And then in that atonement kind of dies. Like there's like story weight behind that.
I think there's also like an interesting parallel here in this particular story where the problem with Davos was he had this whole team and he's like, I think I know better than anyone and I'm going to like play this close to the chest. And I've got my trusted people, but really this larger, broader group who's expressing doubts, all of that stuff, I'm just going to leave them in the dark and go about and go do that thing that I think is best.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look over at Vaughn McRaven.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this group that like, you know, is expressing all of these doubts. And he's like, no, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to leave them all in the dark and going to go do my plan. And the two of them like kind of being opposites in that way. And like his keeping everybody in the dark prevented this keeping everybody in the dark from working. But everybody just kind of feels like shit because like, hey, you didn't trust us. And also a whole bunch of people were either going to die or did die or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of similarities there in that. And I think that's one of the things that's a little bit stuck in my mind and will be being acted on as we move into the future.
Mm-hmm. You guys got some questions too? Kristen, I know you had.
Yeah, sure. One of the things I wanted to ask Peter really quickly is how do you feel, if at all, how do you feel Marcus has changed from conception to like actual play? Like what were you thinking was going to happen? And then what happened like when that rubber sort of hit the road?
Well, Jeff and I had dinner.
Yep.
And we went through a few ideas for Marcus. And I think I was thinking of something completely different. And then we always had the question of how do we don't have the benefit of like a lot of episodes to build a connection to the party.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we kind of get a hook in there so that it makes sense for him to stay?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know which one of us said like, oh, what if he was Claire's dad? And that is kind of what we ended up rolling with. I always had the mercenary idea. I did like that. I liked the soldier kind of being in contrast to the psychic. So that idea was always there. I expected, because all of this celestial spiritual stuff has happened so quickly after me joining, I kind of expected him to stay in that more difficult spot for a little while, but I feel like he definitely can't now. And so I'm thinking about that a lot. I think that's probably been the biggest change. Like I really thought we were going to stay in that, not necessarily conflict, but just, you know, very set in his ways, like singular goal of like dying while trying to avenge Kiara, not really caring about what happens to him. Yeah, that's changed faster than I expected. So that's interesting. I did always have Joel as a mental image, though, as Joel from The Last of Us, icon. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then I also had one, Philip. I was wondering what you kind of thought was Micah's either biggest or coolest moment. This has sort of been like your arc.
Oh man.
For a while. And so like, what is you're either like, oh, that was really cool, or like, oh, this is really impactful.
I mean, I felt pretty cool about the coordination we did kind of at the climax right at the end where like, you know, I got to charge up my laser and everyone's trying to fend off all the monsters. And then we got this one moment like clearing the way through. I don't know. I love that ability. I will use it any chance I possibly can. It's so damn cool.
A stationary target? You don't say.
Yeah, but I can work with this.
I absolutely
more of an obstacle than a person. You say?
I really loved, like, I still can't say it right, but the old plan is the new plan. New plan is old plan is the same plan. I think is the correct order.
Yeah,
that is my favorite.
Yeah.
Especially when you're just kind of muttering that to yourself while aiming the gun.
It's kind of like, wait, where are we? Okay, wait, yeah.
New plan, old plan, same plan.
New plan, old plan, same plan.
Don't need to overthink it.
That's fun.
Yeah. I had a question for you, Jeff, which you have sort of addressed in the course of this conversation, but I was wondering with all this if there were any like notable curveballs for you in terms of this arc, like stuff that went not exactly the way you expected.
Once Stavros died, that was one of the big ones. I don't know why. Sometimes I give you guys objectives, right? And then I'm like, also, here's some cool side objectives. And you're like, no. Objective.
Jeff, the list.
there's a list.
There's a list.
And so that is just like one of the things that I'm like, all right, if I give them a task, they are going to beeline towards that task.
Very task oriented.
And so there was more to, the Dravorn Palace overall. Nothing was, super fleshed out because I think once we started to get in, I realized we're beelining between a couple of different things. But there was where the Chancellor kind of stayed, right? I was half expecting you guys to go through and maybe try and go through some of the stuff there.
Trash the place.
And so there was a little bit of that going way back before the coronation even happened. There was a little bit of a hard thing I was trying to do with Cyril. I was trying to pretty clearly like flag to you guys, this is a time to run. And you guys decided not to run.
We got there eventually.
Yeah.
We're stubborn sons of bitches.
And I think it's another one of those situations where, as a DM, you want to be flexible. I was thinking like, oh, it'd be cool to do like a chase scene to kind of like show off some of Marcus's ability. But I think what we did instead, where Marcus just kind of murders a bunch of people, it works just fine. And so I wanted the culmination and the final confrontation with Cyril to feel earned, and his death to kind of like be a reward for that, as well as like the big gun. Did you guys take the big gun? You just don't have it on you right now in the corner.
That would not fit in the camera bag either.
That would not fit in the camera bag either.
The security check that we paid off.
Yeah, the security guy is going to smuggle in all our weapons, just not the huge gun. Or no. Cyril's gun specifically is too large to be wielded by one person who is not an Ursum.
And we were asking, like, could I use telekinesis? And we're uncertain about that.
Yeah, and so we'll need to figure that out later. But also, that's the one kind of gun we didn't have for the car that I have back on the ship. We bought a missile launcher, but there's also this giant machine gun. So now I have both. Now we can switch out at will as long as we have enough advance notice, all of that. But yes, we definitely kept his gun.
So I think that was another one. But other than that, I don't think you guys threw any major curveballs. I was in another one. It's just sometimes you guys come up with interesting solutions to problems. Sometimes it is the same solution that I should have seen coming, and so I only have myself to blame. There's like, I will say, like half the time I do it purposefully,
sure,
and then the other half of the time, like, yes, right, that is a thing. And it was the pillar. I was trying to give Nona, who had compiled all of these demo charges, an opportunity to use something like that. It obviously, the pillar had, these tendrils that would swing out at anyone who got too close. And so I thought that would be a fun thing to play around. You guys kind of like shoot in a location, break open a hole. And then Micah's like, I'm going to use my telekinetic ram. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that'll do it. And so it's just sometimes like, I need to remember the solutions that you guys come up with in the past. And you're like, I'm going to use that. And I think that there's also opportunities as a DM too. I think there's this idea of shooting the monk. Monks in D&D are really good. I think they have the ability to like catch arrows like out of the air or something like that. And so there's this idea of you want to give, like, these are heroes in a story, at least the way that we're playing it. Like, there's definitely, you guys are a little heroic. You are able to get away with a little nonsense. You're not just like regular people. It's not like, Call of Cthulhu where,
everybody's just,
you get shot and you die.
Yeah.
Right. Or you see what you saw in the Gates of Silence and you go irrevocably insane. It's a little bit different. You guys are, the cream of the crop, so to speak, and are definitely becoming more of that. And so giving you opportunities to shine and then opportunities to challenge you kind of need to balance that a little bit more. So yeah, I think that those are some of the ones that came to mind.
No, that makes sense. And yeah, those were all fun moments where things went maybe a little bit off script or off expectations. I was expecting the time button to be more of a confusing moment for you, but it seems like you were pretty prepared for it.
No, yeah, I mean, I always thought of it as you basically turn back to the round before in that particular area. We definitely honed in on like the little addendum and flavor of like around the time cancer. And so it's like, I think if there was a paradox there, like something weird happened where someone stepped out of it and then stepped into it, and now there's two of them for some reason, like maybe that could have been fun to play around with. But I think just in the moment, it was like, no, let's redo that.
Yeah.
And so it felt appropriate and just kind of like run everything back. I also like the idea of standing outside of that and kind of see time run backwards and then forwards again and being disorienting. So, yeah.
I gotta say, I think also as a player, I need to be a little bit less attached to like story weight, kind of like how are you saying? Because like I just assumed Davos was gonna die. We were playing out that whole thing. I'm like, I've got half of a man. There's no way he's making it to that pillar. So I will walk across that room. He will die, and then we will go to this backup plan. This one other person in this room that just happens to be related to him. And so, like, I was just ready for that to happen. So I didn't really try to save him, also because he was a bastard man. And I did not care for him.
That's true.
Okay, I have a question for you, Jeff.
Yeah, what's up?
There were a lot of prophecies in this particular arc, and I had some wild theories about those, most of which I believe turned out to be false.
All right.
Do you want to maybe
All right, I'm gonna have to
pull
remind
back the
myself,
curtain on this and tell us what the fuck you were thinking?
of
kidding.
which prophecies. So there were how many? There were three.
So there's
Well, there was the Lonely Traveler one, which was just
that's not
saying goodbye to Alex.
but the one before that, there was a whole bunch. That's the Pawns one.
Yeah.
So that's the main one, and then we had some tertiary ones from
What's his face from Davos's
Daniel.
group?
Titus. Yes.
Titus.
Oh,
Titus.
yes. Titus had a couple. Okay. All right. So we'll do the Yawning Maw first.
Sure.
The abyss looms over the Rock of Two Faces, one fed by lies and greed, the other by strife and self-righteousness. I feel like that's self-explanatory.
Which side's which?
Lies and greed is the chancellorship, the children of silence. Strife and self-righteousness is the acolytes of the end.
Fair enough.
His servants have done their part. The machine is whirring, reeking of death and division. Pawns kill and plot, struggle and squirm, bringing the gears ever closer to the final switch. The work is done. The scene is set. The end is near. The Yawning Maw
I thought
stirs.
the end was nigh.
No, well, you can say the end is nigh, but the end is near. So the end was a little bit of an allusion to the acolytes of the end and what they were maybe trying to do. You locked on to the machines and some of the evocative imagery there. And so you're like, I think you landed and were immediately like, this guy who was a part of the mining conglomerate.
Jeff,
Yes.
we heard this prophecy,
The mining
and
guy.
then the very next group of people we met, one of them had a gear tattooed on them.
It did seem fortuitous, and it was kind of connected.
I think Jeff might have made that
That
up.
doesn't
was-
matter.
that was-
that doesn't matter. It
A
was kinda
little bit
connected.
afterwards, I wanted to like, yeah, sure, we'll throw that in and add a little bit of flavor in there. I mean, obviously, I feel like the chancellorship would have owned a large part of the Orsimian mining core.
Yeah. But also, I just need to call out the like attaching on to imagery and taking it too literally is my job as the robot character.
Very reasonable.
It's what I do. I'm still waiting to find that one table from Prophecy 2. There are people sitting across from each other on it any day now.
But yeah, the general vibe I was trying to get is there are two fighting forces, but there is kind of the puppets that are kind of controlling a little bit and influencing both sides in order to reach this final plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the Yawning Maw stirs is obviously a reference to Azakroth directly.
We need to start giving him more names, I've decided.
Yeah, sorry.
I think
Who's Azakroth? Were you referring to Azakroth,
Hold
God
up,
of
Lord
Gods.
of Lords?
Hold up, I got King of Kings.
Yes.
Ancient among primordials, first of the night.
Oh, did I spell
The
it
Yawning
this
Maw.
First time?
Did you write down
I think
all
there's
his
something about
names?
Dreamer.
Azakroth, the one who dreams, the yawning maw, the first of the night, ancient among primordials, and god of gods.
Yeah.
Shorter than I remember.
Kirsten notes, the big boss man.
So that was Claire's prophecy. And then
Yes.
Titus's are all through my notes. So if there are
Yeah.
ones in particular
It
that
was
you want to
really,
talk about.
I went really off the deep end with regards to like, oh, there's a picnic coming and there's 5 people. I had this whole theory in my head that part of this summoning of whatever
Right.
it
Like a
was,
sacrifice.
there was like sacrifice involved because like, oh, he's going to send 5 people, but only one needs. And so I had this whole thing when people started dying in that final room. I'm like, oh no, as the prophecy foretold. Apparently I was just completely wrong about that.
Yes. So what that was referencing was it was more like, yes, this is going to happen. This is happening. But Azakroth does not need to take the entire world. He doesn't need to, eat the entire picnic.
Yep.
Um,
And that's how Titus pronounces it.
Yes.
That's not Jeff. Titus specifically
Yeah.
said picnic.
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 Uh,
He's not your average Pharaoh's like.
He only needs to have one or something like that.
Mhm.
The idea being that I had always kind of thought of how this would be changed is one of the reasons why Davos was there,
Mhm.
right? Was so that there was a method beyond Claire throwing herself into that to reverse that polarity and stop Armageddon, so to speak. And so that was the idea. He doesn't need to destroy the entire world, but there will still be like a death, was the idea. Not necessarily, he doesn't need to kill, these. I think as you were also thinking of the prisoners of war as like those that were going to get executed. Like,
yeah,
and that
I mean,
was,
they were scheduled to go to the place where the important stuff is and get ceremonially murdered at the very least.
Yep.
I don't know. That reeks of sacrifice to a dark god, Jeff. I don't know what to tell you.
It does. The vibe I was trying to go for, there was one for each decade that Chancellor Austere served, and as like a final show of power and his like evocative of his reign, he was going to take down 5 people who were actively working against the Orsimian government and the chancellorship. That was the idea there. It was never fully kind of fleshed out or discussed directly. But yeah, that was the idea. I mean, I if you guys were not able to stop the barge in a way that felt feasible, that would have been the case in the coronation.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I got some questions. I got
Go
some
for
more
it.
questions. What more questions do I have? Kirsten, this one's for you.
Mhm.
Where do you feel Nona is in her maturity? You've mentioned in the past that she's gone through some phases in this campaign as she starts to learn more about relationships and people. Where is she now?
Yes, we've actually discussed this a little bit. Nona is an angsty teenager right now.
Mhm.
She's at the height of her, maybe everybody around me doesn't know better than me. Maybe I know the best of all. Maybe everybody should just shut up and listen to me. And let me dye my hair back and listen to death metal. No, but like just the idea of, I think there's this thing that always happens to like, as Nona was quite childlike for a lot of sort of our earlier arcs. There's like people tell her things and she just straight up believes them.
Mhm.
There was this idea too with the crew of the Phoenix that this was like, oh, this is a family and they know better than me. So when they tell me to do stuff, I'm gonna do stuff. And then so we had this arc and Micah just kept going, trust the plan, trust the plan, trust the plan. And Nona was like, I don't want to trust the plan. Plan looks kind of shit from where I'm sitting. And so I think that's an interesting, like, it was a cool thing for both of our characters because like on one hand, you have like this big faith in this father figure that you've got. And then that transitions down to this belief in this like parent figure that like Nona has. And they kind of just both broke.
It was a very fun back and forth having, that interplay where you were like very untrusting and having, Micah always doubling down on like, no, Vaughn's got it covered.
Yeah.
I enjoyed like us bonding over that. Basically like you're weird and I don't know what your deal is, but we both agree that if this plan goes south, we are getting the fuck out of here.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved all of the little escape plans, even though I was really hoping they were gonna amount to nothing. And
Yeah,
they
yeah.
did, but I liked making them.
No, it
regardless.
was fun as a
Yeah.
character to make them be like, all right, you grab Micah, I'll grab Claire. Let's go.
We leave.
Or, we could leave Micah. That would be fine.
Well, so that's the whole thing. Is that's why I made Micah take the snap back, because I'm like, you're the
Oh,
only
yeah.
one.
No, yeah. I don't know if we said that on
We
air,
did,
but yeah,
yes.
that is why we made Micah take the snap back, because Marcus was like, I'm
I
just
would
going to fucking leave her.
Like a bullet
Like-
flies through the air. Bye.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Like both of you scheming, and Mike is just like, yeah, I guess this makes sense. This works for the plan. So yeah, I'll just do it. Like,
Just take more drugs. It's fine.
yeah.
For Philip, where's the relationship with Vaughn after the events at the Gates of Silence? Do you feel it is irreparably
Man.
broken?
I think that Micah wishes that he had not just walked away at the end of that. I think she like feels very betrayed, is very hurt. I don't know if it's irreparable, because aside from like chewing him out immediately after it happened, we didn't really
There's no resolution
talk
there.
anymore. Yeah, it feels very unresolved, I think, for Micah. So I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of a fresh wound for a long time. Maybe if we end up circling back to Orisyame or bumping into him through some other means at some point. Hypothetically,
If he
not
ended
that
up
that would ever
being
happen.
Some sort of, let's say for example, like some really super powerful
If he would-
psychic that was needed
if he
to resolve the end plot.
Traveled in some sort of
Yes,
way.
the vehicular thing.
As soon as you make like, there's a really cool one of these and also a really cool one of these, and they're a part of a set, PCs are like, I'm getting all of them. Collect them all.
And
As
we're
if
not
that's
wrong.
You're not wrong.
And we're not
You're
wrong,
not wrong.
Jeff. You
Except
make-
Tony. Tony can stay over there.
Tony,
We don't-
can
we-
you direct us to your next of kin?
We can skip one of them.
Hypothetically, man.
No. So, I mean, I don't think it's irreparable, but I think that, this was all kind of a big jumping off point to me for Micah to grow as a character in a way where like she's been very devoted to this worldview that kind of revolves around this one person kind of being the guiding light. And that obviously got really broken in the course of this last story arc. And so maybe, when she's had some more time to kind of develop past that and whatever we end up doing in the near to medium future, she'd be okay to talk to Vaughn again. I think there would still be hard feelings, but who's to say? I don't think it's out of the question.
How much of like your gung ho about the acolytes of the end? Like, obviously, some of that is just, Micah's personal lived experience, but like, how much of that is this is a thing that Micah definitely believes in, and how much of that is like a Vaughn McRaven, I'm a part of a cool team and we're gonna go kick ass?
I think it's sort of very much the same thing. I think it's kind of both, that it, like, Micah joined this group, or like, Isis reached out to her as kind of part of Micah's backstory that you guys have gotten a bit of a glimpse into before, at kind of a vulnerable time in her life. And this kind of gave her something to organize around and believe in. And so I think she does care about rescuing the psychics and that kind of thing, but it also has very much to do with like, oh, great. Like, this is what it's about for me now. Like, this is this group, this guy who's this visionary. Yeah. So to me, I think that they feel like a very similar kind of chord being struck for this character and the way she thinks about things.
You saying that made me think of something else that threw, and it didn't throw me for a curveball, but I was like, not even a second look, was when you guys infiltrated the Silence Operatives outpost. There
in
was
the caldera.
in the caldera, and there was someone who had just gotten thrown into the brig.
Yes, there was.
And I was totally expecting Micah to be like, we gotta save him, but it was very much like in and out. We gotta get in, and then we gotta get out.
We had a list, Jeff.
Yeah, no. Once more, it like makes me think back. Like, all right, when there's a list of things, side objectives don't happen.
No, we're very practical, and that's true. And that one, that was a tough moment there too. I think that I like rolled some dice over exactly how Micah was going to react, because it was like, there was a draw to help that person. In the end of the day, I think there was a little calculus of like, well, this is the plan. Like, this is going to help people more in the long run. But it did kind of suck to
Yeah.
see that person and leave them there.
Yeah, I think speaking as somebody who plays sometimes a very practical character, but I myself am a completionist, that one hurt me. I argued against going in there and rescuing that person, but I'm like, oh, you told me they said fire to things? Oh, new best friend.
It feels like the opposite of what happened in Neo Opus when you guys were like, well, we got the time. Why don't we just go and poke our head into that that gene lab over there? And then you came across the guy with the big sword and you're like, all right, cool. There was like a constant push of like, we don't really need to be doing this, but like, but looting.
I do think, yeah, the difference there maybe for me was that it like was such a high pressure situation in the
Yes,
Caldera. It's like,
it was.
if we get found out, there is like an entire battalion of people with guns who are all around us.
Yes,
So that like tipped the scales a bit, maybe.
very reasonable.
Also, why I didn't feel like we could loot like other areas of the palace more.
Yes, there was
Like,
definitely
we
like
were on a clock.
Every
Yeah.
psychic on this planet is about to die. We need to go.
yeah.
Well, that's what's really funny. Jeff was actually saying, I remember when we were talking after this, he's like, oh, yeah, but like after you guys got to security and shut it off, you were on a clock. And I was like, after? I thought like before we got to security
Yeah.
and shut it
The
off,
whole time
we
we're
were
on a clock.
because people were maybe dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to describe like there was kind of an ongoing kind of entrenched on either side.
Mm.
And so it wasn't like, an absolute bloodbath, like battlefield, but there was definitely like some shots being taken back and forth.
Yeah.
It was more of a skirmish than a battle at that point.
Skirmish.
For sure, I still feel
No,
like
yeah, I understand.
That,
I
psychic
completely
number
understand.
12 in the trenches just sees our group walk past down the
Reading through
corridor.
some books.
Yeah, like
Just take a look at this one over here.
you want to go check out the kitchen? There might be some snacks.
Let's raid their bedroom.
I just like be like, we're trying to fight a war here.
Yeah. And so I definitely something like, time limits, especially even ones that don't necessarily feel like super pressing, but just are there in the background.
Yeah.
And also a list will start to narrow the focus. So I don't necessarily need to like flesh out the entirety of the palace. Anyway,
You just saw its very real sadness in Jeff's eyes as he thinks through all of the cool things he put in there that we were just like, nah.
Well, now I want to know, what are the cool things you put in the palace?
again, like there would have been some, and I don't have them in front of me. There were some interesting artifacts in the
Okay.
Chancellor's stuff. There was
some kinky shit in there.
yes, and
the whip of domination. Oh no, this isn't an ancient artifact. This is just for me.
there was also an alternative way to get to the secret base from the Chancellor's quarters.
Besides just trying to guess the code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did like that moment. That was fun.
And so like it would have been you would have gotten more stuff. There would have been some.
I love
Stuff.
stuff.
I'm such a stuff lover.
And that's why I'm glad that I had Enzo kind of making a scene like outside of the armory, so you
Yeah.
guys got some stuff.
Yes.
I liked that. I liked our stuff.
Mhm.
I'm so excited for this backpack.
Oh, yeah. Bag of folding.
Yep.
Excellent.
And then for Peter,
Yes.
how did it feel to join a campaign midway through, especially one that you were vaguely aware of the existing lore for?
Oh, well, vaguely aware, and also asking like, "Hey, do you guys want to hang out this weekend?" And then all of you saying, "No, we're recording the podcast." It was very intimidating. It's still intimidating. There's a lot of lore.
Don't worry, I got you.
I know. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it. This is also a system that I haven't played before,
Mhm.
so that's not like scary, but it's just like, ooh, like this isn't like D&D, which is what I'm most familiar with. I definitely feel the kind of pressure to make my character make sense in the story
Mm.
since I'm new, and it's been going well. I think I felt like Marcus's choices have made sense, and he hasn't been like overly kind of clingy. Like I mostly was worried about the kind of cliche of like, oh, I appear and it's like we need to shoehorn him in so he's in,
Mhm.
like I feel like we had moments of conflict, but enough reason for me to stay around. So that's felt pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I'm excited to flesh him out more, especially as he's gone through this big, like, spirit shattering, multiple spirit shattering experiences in very quick succession. And we've been talking about, like, what is Marcus going to think of Dr. Samantha Kelvin and all
Yeah.
of that stuff going on.
Fun
Or
times.
Tara.
Or, yeah, he doesn't even know that
No, we
Tara's
know
there.
exactly what Marcus is going to think of Tara. What every single character besides Nona thinks of Tara.
We should get rid of her.
Yeah.
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 So,
That's all right.
so we'll see. That'll be fun. I definitely feel that I'm using some of my lore ignorance to my advantage because it makes it convenient on the podcast to then be able to ask what is this thing?
I loved that time when we were like in the elevator
that
and
was
I just
funny.
used you as an excuse to lore dump
Yep.
as fast as I possibly could. That made me feel cool.
It was
I
it was
very
funny.
fun.
I
I also
enjoyed
really
that. I enjoyed
appreciated
that.
when the Chancellor and the rest of the Dravorn siblings got turned, and Marcus was like, "You didn't tell me about these ones." Like, those
didn't
weren't on the
know
list.
about
I didn't know about those.
Yeah.
Nona adding it. Group 4.
Question mark?
What the fuck are these things?
All right, Kirsten, do you have one last one that you want to
Yeah,
do?
sure. For everybody, just really quick round the table. Who is your favorite and least favorite NPC?
From this
Ooh.
arc or just in
Probably
general?
from this arc.
this arc?
Is more fun.
Oh,
Least favorite Von McRaven. I don't know. There's not one. I mean, not one that's like this idea of a person sucks. It'll be like they're like Enzo is such a shitty guy, but I love him.
oh, I was gonna say Enzo's my favorite NPC
Yeah.
because he's so fun to interact with.
No, for sure. It's always fun to have just like a shitty little villain who's not like
A mastermind,
like a
you know?
mastermind
Yeah, he's just a
maniac
piece of
kind of.
shit.
It's just like a self-serving dick. That's all.
I really liked playing Carter Greer. There,
Oh,
he's got to come back.
He was a
Oh my
highlight.
god, the dog! I forgot about
Petunia.
the dog.
Oh, this is why you didn't let me kill him because you liked playing him too much. You're gonna bring him back,
No, don't kill me, don't kill me.
Constantly dabbing at his neck.
which Jeff does. You can't see it. This is an audio medium, but Jeff
You have
plays.
to get
In
into character.
character.
Just pat yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I forgot about Carter Greer.
Yeah.
He's good.
You see, I create a lot of these NPCs, so there's something that I like about most of them.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of if there was one in particular that I was like, about. No, I mean, they all, I feel like, served their purpose in different ways. I think I want to do more with Freya.
Hmm. That would be good. We should do more Freya before we leave forever.
That is something that,
That there's
I
going to
was-
need to be some
yeah.
conversations that Freya and Micah have because they
Yes.
were in a kind of relationship.
It's been rocky, and then there was a lot of action, and then everyone just sort of passed out the last night
Yeah.
as of where we are right now. But yeah, before we beat it somewhere else, that conversation definitely needs to happen.
And so I want to do more with her because talk about people not having a good time. She's not having a good time right
Yeah.
now. Like she is feels extremely guilty about what happened, which, to some extent she should. But I feel like that is also worthwhile exploring a little bit as well. It almost feels like, in that moment, there was more like Sky did what Sky did because that's what Sky needed to do.
Mhm.
But Freya almost like has more of the blame. It's kind of like, well, you can't blame the lion for getting out and hurting someone. You
Yeah.
blame the lion keeper for keeping the door unlocked
Yeah.
to some extent. And so I feel like that there's something there that wants to happen more. And so that's definitely I have some ideas for that. But I think where it stands right now, that's definitely one where I'm like, I feel like I should have done something by now. And so, yeah, I think that would be my
Great
favorite. and
news,
least
Jeff.
favorite.
You're about to have an opportunity too.
It turns out I have some plans.
Amazing. Anybody else?
I don't know if I have a
ready to-
least favorite NPC. No.
I think for me, weirdly enough, Dorian Gray is not on the list this time, mostly because she didn't do all that much.
She's just kind of around. Yeah.
We took a lovely jet ski ride together, and that was fun.
Yeah.
But she didn't really she first showed up. You had the smoking, it was like a whole vibe. She's getting lame in her old years. Just kidding. I think favorite NPC, I really liked Goose. I really liked
Mhm.
that he just kept showing up places and we never actually really spoke with him. It was just one of those things where it's like, you again.
He was
And
just like the silent lieutenant, just kind of around.
And it kind of felt a little bit like the Pokemon rival thing. Where it's like, why do you keep popping up?
Get out of here.
Following us.
Stop it. But yeah, that was like kind of cool. He had a cool set of powers. He had a cool vibe about him. We talked about him a lot off air. We didn't actually get all that much of an opportunity to interact with him. So I don't know how much of that actual personality made it across into the story. But at the very least, we definitely had the rival, you.
Yeah. There's definitely, I drew big inspirations for him from the main antagonist of Serenity and like the Firefly movie. Just this idea of, you know, a hunter hunting down for the big bad, and fanatically so, and knows that this world is not for him. And so like once his work is done, like he is done. There's something I feel very evocative about that mindset and that level of fanaticism, which obviously didn't get to show up too much until the very end. And he was not having a good time. I don't think you guys still quite understand what happened there. Clearly there was some kind of turning, but he felt like there was so much betrayal, and he's like he's a fanatic with nothing to worship anymore.
Nothing to fanaticize about.
Yeah, and so I think that you definitely haven't seen the last of him. He's definitely going to show up again.
Yeah, and then least favorite for multiple reasons, both in character and out, and they're hard to sort out, is just Devos. Devos just sucks. I hate him.
Actually changed my answer.
so
Devos is my least favorite.
It's like good.
Yeah.
So much. Just like him all being there like, oh, I'm so enlightened and here I am. And Von McRaven has told you not to murder me in my sleep, so you can't do anything to me. And I'm like, you bastard, man.
You're a bastard, man. with
So
bastard
many
feeling.
nights Nona was just sitting there being like, knife him. No.
I could solve one apocalypse right
Right
now.
Right now. We could do it. I would be vexed.
I feel like he. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because I'll tell you what, even if that was still going to go down without him, they wouldn't have had the shield thingy.
Could have blown him up.
Could have blown them all up. Way easier.
I was also feeling like when people were trying to talk to him, you know, like Devos, like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't gonna whatever. It's like, of course, everyone's gonna die, Devos. Like, this is a terrible plan. And he's like, oh, it's fine. Like what you're saying with him being so enlightened. It's like, no, this is an awful, terrible plan.
Mm-hmm.
You're just conceited and annoying, and I don't like you. Yeah, least favorite NPC.
Leader of a death cult and dragging everybody else down with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
And also, you have to share a bathroom with him.
Yeah, it turns out when I first created Orisiame, before we even put Micah's character there, I wanted, there was a civil war here.
Mhm.
And I kind of wanted both sides to be kind of awful. I wanted, you know, the oppressors to be bad, you know, because they're fascists and oppressors. But I also wanted some sliver of like the rebellion to be like, yeah, but we're better than you and we know better, and have some like, I didn't want it to be clear that one side was good and one side was bad. I wanted both to be just kind of a little, and like, just children, you're both just awful. And so obviously, you know, once Micah got added into one side, I was like, all right,
We gotta wind that back a little.
gotta tune that one down. So it's just like one sec. But yeah, I did definitely want, like, it. They call themselves the acolytes of the end,
They
where
sure
they
do.
thought that the scream was a good thing. So like,
Yeah, not everyone got that memo, I guess. We've just kind of been running with this name, and not everyone's on board, actually.
Well, you found it out first when you were like 14. So you were well in your like rebellion phase. You're like, yeah, the end of the government, the end of oppression. It's a symbolic end.
No one else takes it like that seriously. It's not like a whole death cult thing.
yeah, I think I also described it a little bit as like, there was never really a name. And then so you guys were named for the sect that was kind of the most fervent a little bit. And everyone just kind of got grouped together with them. All right. Any other NPCs? All right.
So we'll just end on the idea that Devos sucks. Then.
Mhm.
Not a
Amen.
good guy. Definitely, like I think if I were to redo this arc, I would try and see if there was a way for me to make him a little bit more redeemable. I think it would have been nice to not have him just be just awful.
Wait, what's
Counterpoint, less redeemable.
I was gonna say, literally.
Okay.
Eviler, so we feel better about
Fair
killing
enough.
him.
If I could
enough.
do this arc again, I would have shot the spider despite what any other person said. I was
Fair
so
enough.
close. I was
think-
gonna do it.
I think that might be something with me. I like characters that are shades of gray. And I think it's difficult as a PC to be like, do I shoot the gray man? I don't
I wanted
know.
to.
The bad guy I can definitely shoot. The good guy I don't shoot. The guy in the middle, but I shoot him?
He tortured
No.
children, Jeff.
Nona's got
Oh,
a
yeah.
great way to resolve this. She just asks the other party members and then does what they say unthinkingly. Works out well. We're shooting this man. We not shooting this man?
Yes.
Democracy
Yeah.
in action. Do I get a vote? No. All right. Well, thank you all for sitting down and answering these questions, and also thank you for continuing to play this campaign with me and telling the story. It's a lot of fun, and also to everyone on the other side of this, the listeners,
Of which we apparently have two now.
at least two.
Amazing.
Hi, guys.
I enjoy you all as well. It's fun to put something out there, something that you are doing creatively, and have other people appreciate it and engage with it. So always feel free to send messages to either one of our emails. Kirsten doesn't check hers nearly as much as I check mine.
every single time I edit, Jeff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so feel free to send an email there. I will respond, or Kirsten will respond, depending on which one you send it to.
I will forward it.
And yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
All right.
And
And
thank
that,
y'all for listening. We love you.
yeah. And that is where we're going to end today's episode. And
Not episode.
Not episode, the metadimensional episode.
There you go.
And then this is when we start to, fade back into the background
Ooh.
and everything like that.
Here I go.
we didn't
off
get that
to
many
get us
musical
now.
facts out this time.
Quick.
Oh, well,
I made everyone watch the Music Man. It was great.
The Tonys are this Sunday. It's very exciting. Tonys 2025.
I feel like in the Music Man, I feel like he didn't do enough to actually redeem himself. He still just seems kind of like a dick.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah. I feel like maybe he should have gone to jail for a little bit.
I mean, also, I'm
Okay,
not
he's gonna
entirely
be
sure.
stuck conducting that band though.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, yeah, she falls in love with him, but I think that speaks just worse about her judgment.